How's it going, guys? Zenoto here, back at you with another video, this time discussing the most recent Panda Global rankings. Normally I tend to stay away from topics that are heavily based on opinion, but I feel this one is definitely worth discussing and decided to give my 2 cents on the matter. I waited a couple months to make this video so that there would be time for some results to be established using the current list, but I feel a lot of players either have a misguided idea of the purpose of the PGR, come to a snap judgment about it, or just feel slighted in general by it. In this video, I'm going to talk about some of this stuff as well as some of the players most heavily affected by it that aren't on this iteration of the Panda Global rankings. Though rankings by design may be subjective, with established criteria and guidelines, we can reduce this subjectiveness immensely. With that, I guess let's just get started. So for those of you who don't know what the Panda Global rankings are, biannually, the Panda Global Gaming Stat Team compiled data from the results of the major tournaments during that ranking period. They then create a list of the top 50 Smash Bros. Wii U players. In essence, it's kind of similar to the Melee Omni Top 100 rankings, where it creates a list of the top players of the game for seeding for use in the upcoming tournament season. This ranking's purpose is manifold, being to garner exposure from larger esports organizations and help them understand the strongest players in the current state of Smash. It portrays the current top players to the other gaming communities, a lot like the Shoryuken's FGC rankings. It provides a blueprint for seeding in future larger events, along with many more reasons. Because this is a ranking, however, I feel like most people are viewing this solely from the perspective of someone needing to get slighted. Regardless of the list, if it doesn't match their personal opinion, or there are too many variations of how they view the current state of the game, the list is just trash, shouldn't be taken seriously or whatever. Who cares about what this can do for the community? X player doesn't deserve to be there, or why am I not on here when X player is here? In my opinion, and mind you, I guess it's a very brash opinion, if you have to argue for yourself to be recognized as a notable player for the PGR, your season probably wasn't nearly as strong as you thought it was to get on it in the first place. If you're good, your results should speak more than loud enough, and others will vouch for you. There should be no need to have arguments on why you were slighted in the first place. Enabling this perspective also gives players aspiring to be the best the impression that at the end of the day, you can just argue your way onto being in the top 50. With that said, however, there are things on the list that I don't agree with as well, that I'll get into later. There has to be some sense of subjectiveness, I guess, as there is with all lists, but we can't let that misguide us from the purpose of the PGR in general. A successful ranking requires the efforts of everyone. Proper criteria and accurate results from the stats team, and full participation from the panelists and the community. So with that, I'll go right into inclusion of other countries. Without Europe, Japan, Mexico, and the like, the rankings wouldn't even be close to accurate. The biggest issue with ranking multiple regions is assessing the values of wins and losses if the regions don't necessarily play each other. This has always been an issue when ranking Japan. It was the case in Brawl as well, and a metric for weighing the importance of the major events for the Japanese players should be laid out and transparent. This brings me to my first player that I was surprised that didn't make it onto the rankings, Shuton. There are 9 Japanese players on the PGR, and although Japan has many strong players, Shuton would definitely be one of the players I list if I had to name 9 of Japan's strongest players. As arguably the strongest Olimar player in the world, it definitely surprised me that he wasn't on there. You'd be hard-pressed to find a tournament in Japan that Shuton doesn't top 8. The only real thing I can see holding him back is his lack of showings in the US, but many of the other Japanese players only made one appearance in the United States with decent results, mind you, but it leaves the question of how heavily competing in the States is counted compared to competing in Japan. It may have been mentioned in a post somewhere, however, like I mentioned earlier, transparency is key. Not all players are afforded the same opportunity, and traveling across the world is a huge commitment. How heavily tournaments are counted in different parts of the world is a key factor so that these players can know what tournaments they need to prioritize. The organization of the 2GG circuit as well as the bigger events being planned out way in advance this year is a huge step forward, but I feel like this has to be put in the FAQ or something somewhere. With that, we'll move on to my second point of peak performances. The idea of peak performances isn't something I prefer, but I can live with as long as the standard is set across the board for all the tournaments someone enters, and not just the 6 major events that were counted. Obviously, you have to take into account the type of tournament, so your peak performance isn't simply first at your local. But some of the 2GG tournaments during the last ranking period were legitimately as hard as some of the major events, but didn't fall into the category of a major because of entrant counts or the number of previous PR entrants that came. I can only imagine this to be the reason the next player I was surprised didn't make it on, Elegant. Anyone who has ever played Elegant before will tell you that that kid is absolutely ridiculous. I've seen him have matches with top 20 players that he wins in less than 30 seconds. Being so young, it was difficult for him to travel to a lot of the things outside of the 2GG events, but even then, the competition he faced was absolutely tremendous, which absolutely baffled me as to why they wouldn't earn him enough credit to make it on the PGR. The idea of peak performances is fine, but I don't feel like they should be weighed as heavily as they are, and that if that is the system that's going to be used, it should be extended to more than just the 6 majors. This would avoid heavy inflation for one strong performance and will make it so people like Elegant aren't left out. This season, he's been traveling a lot more and has continued to make his strong showings, so I definitely expect him to be on the next PGR. This actually brings me to my next point of the matter of consistency. This is probably the biggest tilter when looking at the rankings for most players. A lot of players argued against peak performances for reasons that a player's skill isn't stagnant. You aren't always going to be on your A game, and taking a screenshot of someone at their best doesn't tell the entire story. While high peaks should definitely be rewarded, I personally value being able to consistently place well more, which is why I feel Nakat and Ryuga deserve a spot on the PGR as well. In a top 48 bracket of a major, I'd be super surprised if I didn't see Nakat somewhere in there. He may not have a super well placing at any of the major events he's attended, but I can't think of a tournament that he's not made the top 48 in. He's also attends just about every large event, which shows how strong of a player he is. As Ryuga, him not being on the PGR is a little bit more understandable since he didn't attend most of the major events, but when he does attend, he almost always has strong performances, which complement his ability as a player. Much like Elegant, I don't think there's a player on the planet that he can't beat, and from a person who plays him often, when he's on his game, I don't think anyone wants to run into him in bracket. Results that can be replicated are extremely valuable as it helps define a player's true skill. With other players, different playing conditions, changing mental states, different environments, and more, players that can win no matter what the circumstance over and over, I believe, prove themselves in earning a spot on the ranking. So that about wraps it up. The Panda Global Rankings are going to be big for increasing the exposure of Smash 4 among larger organizations, and although they may not be perfect, it won't get any better without the feedback from the community. Like I stated earlier, this is just one opinion on the rankings, but I feel like as long as they're focused and constructive, the discussion should be healthy for future iterations of the PGR. The next video for me will definitely be another cram school, and like with the Bayonetta one, I'll let you guys vote on the character. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop a like below, and for more Smash content, you can check out the rest of my channel and subscribe to stay updated on my videos. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.